To the Charities and Trust Committee. Today is Thursday the 18th of April. Item 1. Chantal, do we have any apologies?
No apologies.
Thank you. Item 2. Declarations of interests. Thank you. Okay. Item 3. Minutes of meeting held on the 14th of November 2023. They have been circulated and are on this document. Either members have any comments? Okay. David? No. I have no comments. Do you take them as a true record then? Okay. Minutes up. And I will sign. Have your permission to sign them? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Item 4. Tamworth Youth Centre Fund.
Okay. So I'll start. This is a report in Tim Lees' name. But he can't be here today, unfortunately, so I will take members through it. But before I go through it, I just want to make it clear to everybody that one of the issues in relation to this particular item is one of a conflict of interest between the County Council and the Charity Trust itself. So we'll have a bit more of a discussion about that, but I kind of want to make that clear here, so that you do separate your decision making from County Council issues solely on the trust. And I appreciate you know that, but it just does bear repeating.
Could I just check? Isn't this committee, in the same way that the meeting we have tomorrow are with the Crow panel, separate from the council in as much as it's a management committee, not part of the council's policy? We are not responsible to the cabinet, we're responsible to the community. Does that make a change in our status as far as commenting on matters concerned?
No, it doesn't change it. You've just said, perhaps in a better way than I did, just what I wanted to remind you of, because it is, as will come out in some of the detail, it is quite important. So this item is to consider changing the objectives of the Tamworth Youth Centre Fund charity. Previously, the committee did make a decision to sell the property and to use the proceeds to create annual grants to further the charitable objectives. That requires a change in the scheme wording, and process-wise, there would need to be a publication of the notice, which is included in the report to allow that to happen. So, as I said, previously the committee did agree to the principle of the disposal of the youth centre property, and we have discussed with the Charity Commission and proposed some revised objectives. There are further revised objectives here as well for consideration. But because this is it's a reasonable change, there is quite a lot of process in relation to the Charity Commission, and they are specifically asking for reconfirmation that you're happy to proceed with the amended scheme and to sell the property and then to do the advertising accordingly. They also specifically say that as part of that, you've got to consider the range of options that are available to make sure that the relevant tests which are in the report, and I'll come to them in the moment, to change the objectives of the charity have been met. To make sure that you understand the consultation, what's happening with the consultation process, and considered that. And then basically the last one is the principles of good decision making have been applied when deciding to amend the scheme, which goes back to my previous point, which is to make it clear that the decisions are in or for the benefit of the trust itself, and not to do anything to do with the county council, or the county council's benefit, should I say. So that's what that's what we're required to do. The first part of the report is a reminder of the County Council's role as the charity trustee, and that is to act in the best interests of the charity. There's more in paragraphs 4 to 8, making that clear. And then we move on then to the background and really why this suggestion of changing the scheme has been brought and has long since been discussed, I have to say. So an application was made back in June 21. We looked at various different options: maintain the status quo and take no further action, make an application to change the charitable objectives, or to source a new tenant. So essentially what we have is we have a property there that its use isn't sustainable. You'll remember it was a former youth centre. A long time ago the County Council ceased operating youth centres, and the County Council looked for community organisations, voluntary sector and the like, to run them. Some of them have been successful, some of them haven't. We have a small number that run now, but a number of them have ceased to run. This particular one was most latterly, the lead tenant was an organisation called Humankind, who delivered services, drug and alcohol services, actually. So not to children, not in line with the objectives of the charity, but they did allow use of the building when they weren't operating within it, so evenings and weekends, for some clubs. There's details of the clubs have been presented to the committee in the past, and they have very much run down over a number of years. The previous tenant has now moved out because the County Council has changed its drug and alcohol service delivery. The tenant was only there under a tenancy at will in any case, so they've subsequently moved out, and it's now the sitting tenant, head lead tenant, is MPFT, but they have got alternative premises in Tamworth and are only there for 6 months or something like that. So that's just a bit of background in terms of where we are with the property as things stand at the moment. I focus really there on option C, which is about sourcing a new tenant. So all of that time that Humankind were in there, we were trying to find new tenants for the property to sort of provide community type services, and particularly those focused at young people. Through the consultation, we asked that question as well, and nobody has come forward. So in terms of that one, that's a difficult option. Option B, that is the one that is put forward in the report. And option A, maintain the status quo and take no further action. Well, that doesn't really do anything in terms of promoting the objectives of the charity. The clubs that are in there at the moment is Tamworth Radio, which isn't directed towards children, and there is a table tennis club in there. The table tennis club are in conversations with Tamworth Borough Council about finding an alternative venue. So they are the options that are put forward. There is background information in the appendices. Previously at this committee, you've seen the consultation exercise, a very low response actually to the consultation exercise, nobody coming forward in terms of looking to take the property on as it is. So then we have progressed a little bit, and starting at paragraph 14 in the report, we talk about the revised wording of the scheme to enable the property to be sold and therefore to provide the benefits to young people within the Tamworth area rather than through a building. And as I've kind of suggested, really, the only benefit being delivered at the moment is via the table tennis club, to take the money, invest it, and allow that money then to be spent for the benefit of younger people in the Tamworth area. And we can come on in a minute to the wording and the revised wording. In actual fact, I'll do that now. So on paragraph 15 of the report, the previous wording was to promote social, mental, moral, physical and spiritual well-being of younger residents under 25 years of age in Tamworth and the surrounding district, with the object of improving the condition of life for the same persons. So the Charity Commission have proposed slightly different wording, which is to provide or assist in the provision of facilities for recreation or other leisure time occupation of persons under 25 years of age who are resident in the area of benefit, with the object of improving the conditions of life for the said persons. So I think the spirit of that is similar, but obviously you'll have your views on in terms of the specific wording. And as paragraph 17 says, it's for the trustees to consider and determine the wording and whether you agree with it. If we proceed with this, then there needs to be a public notice about the proposed changing, and then obviously any objections or representations will go to the Charity Commission or potentially yourselves, and then we'll have to consider those based upon whatever actually comes out of posting the notice for a month, I believe, Vanessa, that's right, for a month. We then talk a little bit about equalities, implications. So there's something in the Charities Act there about equalities. I mean, I think in terms of this, obviously, the objectives of the charity are actually pointed towards younger people, so we need to be aware of that. I don't think as officers we're aware of any other equality type issues in relation to what is being presented. And then the legal implications, again, they are reasonably significant in the sense of understanding that any decisions made are for the benefit of the charity and not for the county council. So I think that's it really in terms of the report, which is all we want to raise. I would just remind you that the requirements of so yeah, there is something that I need to come back to specifically then. So range of options, the relevant legal tests in section 62 of the Charities Act, which is at paragraph 25. So this is to change any scheme for the charity, you have to meet, you have to look at the objectives set out in this section 62 of the Charities Act. So that is, the objectives set out in the current governing document can no longer be carried out or not in the way laid down in the governing document, have been fulfilled or adequately provided for in other ways, do not provide a use for all of the charity's income and property, use outdated definitions of areas, places, classes of people, have ceased to be charitable in law, have stopped being a useful way of using the funds or property, for example, providing very small payments or gifts of food or fuel to beneficiaries, where two or more charities with similar objects want to merge but do not have the legal power to do so. Clearly, the last one doesn't apply. Have stopped being useful in a way that funds or property, in accordance, that is a point that we are trying to make. There is only the table tennis club that is using that property. Cease to be charitable in law, that doesn't apply. Outdated definitions of area, places or classes of people, we believe that if that was the case, it's been revised in the new wording that's put forward. Do not provide a use for all of the charity's income or property. Well, it's similar again. The property isn't being used for those charitable objectives to the extent that perhaps it was intended when the charity was set up. Certainly not substantially used. If we just look at the charitable use of the property, it is very, very underused. in terms of time and the available size. So that's they're the considerations in terms of making a change to the governing document. So I'm going to stop there, and any questions?
No, I think Ian's covered the main point. The main point is that we can only amend the scheme if we're happy that it would enable the charitable objectives to be furthered as is set out in section 62, and any decision must be in accordance and in the best interests of the charity.
Councillors? David?
Yeah, Chairman, could I just clarify, going right back to the very first things that you were saying, do we have two decisions to take today? One is clearly within our remit to decide what we do with the property, and that should be the benefit of the charity that it relates to, which we manage. So no problem with that. But going back to the first point you were making, if we're making changes to the terms of the charitable trust, you were saying that there may be some issues about whether we feel with the right body to make those changes. I mean, I feel comfortable that we are, but do we need to actually agree that first and then agree what we're going to do as far as the benefit of the trust is concerned with the building and its tenants or its disposal or whatever else?
No, this committee is definitely the right body to be making that decision. It's just you have to separate yourselves in terms of the council role. So it's the decision is solely what's best for the charity. That's it. You are definitely the body to make the decision, but all of these things are governed by the Charity Commission and the Charities Act. So you're making a decision within that framework of law, which is the Charities Act and the Charity Commission. But within that, this committee is the trustee for the charity and must make its decision for the benefit of that charity, and not the county council. That's clear. It definitely is the right body.
Which comes first, Chairman, the chicken or the egg?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm fairly sure I get where we're coming from on this report. Apologies if I say something that's not correct. But just for a simple man's approach, the building is due to be sold because we haven't got sufficient tenants for it and income, and it's a past legacy from the youth club days. My concern or question is, if we sell the building and there's a sum of money that's derived from that sale, and that money will then be put into trust to be used to increase the interest from that pot. How do we? What's the mechanism of management of that money in terms of who benefits from it? We've got fairly strict guidelines, under 25 Tamworth, completely get that, but who's going to actually do the work, the administration? And if there isn't anybody, what's going to happen? Is that pot just going to carry on increasing in value and with no beneficiary?
I explained that this does go back quite a long way, and I think unfortunately, Mark, that's probably before you were on the committee, so apologies that I haven't made that clear in my summary. So the proposals were that the money would be invested similar to arrangements for others, and then that the income from that is then spent every year, and we were proposing that skivvies manage the distribution of those funds. So you'll be aware that that's the youth voluntary organisation in the county. So quite well placed actually to understand what it is young people want, and will engage with local organisations and distribute that money, and then they'll come every 12 months and present a report back to the committee in terms of what the proposals are, what they're thinking of doing, and indeed a backward and a forward look in terms of actually where that money has been spent and what those benefits are.
So just to be correct, the money that's derived from the sale, the income from that money will go towards Skivvies distributing it, and we will definitely get a report at this committee. I think that's incredibly important. The second one really is presumably Skivvies will adhere to the trust's legacy in terms of Tamworth children or Tamworth young adults under 25. So that will come back in the report as well.
Yep. So you may be aware that we do have a contract for what the county council has a contract for wider voluntary support, and it's part of that. But it doesn't just get lost into that. It's a separate part of that arrangement with specific requirements in terms of what they're going to fulfil. So definitely those objectives of the charity are what they will be focusing on, and what when they report and when they present proposals and they report back on them is exactly what they need to demonstrate to this committee ongoing.
From discussions with Treasury, the intention is also that the payments won't actually be made by Skivvies. We will hold the funds and continue to do so. So we will be checking every proposal, and it's only once we as trustees are happy that it complies with the objectives that the funds will actually be released.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Hewitt? No. Okay. Okay, councillors, we've heard what's been said, really. Maintain the status quo, there's little option for that. Secure a new tenant, that has been tried. So if we look at option B, which complies with all that's been said by the Charity Commission, make an application, change the charitable objectives to enable the sale of a property and the appointment of a quasi-management trustees to deliver an annual grants programme in accordance with the charitable objectives. So that's what we're looking at. All those in favour of that? Okay. Seconded? Please. Okay. We've made that decision. We go along with item B, the recommendation, for the reasons you've given today. Thank you. That is the only item on the agenda. So can I thank you all for attending? And I call the meeting to an end.
Thank you, Chairman. Well chaired.